Okay, so here's an update on the CBR600 F3. So basically I took most of the bodywork off it, and the main reason for that was I needed to change the headlight. So what had caused this to get melted at the front, but it was melted. So I got another headlight unit, and unfortunately I didn't notice that the headlight unit that I bought had a broken tab off right here, and then somebody had also cut these off. There's like a bullet, plastic bullet on the back of these, so I had to take them off. I cut them off of the one I had on the bike originally, and then I plastic welded them back onto the one that I had bought with the good lens. So that's now the lens is in there, everything looks good, and if you look around the back, everything looks good in there now. I got all of the bottom one down here is the one I welded on, and then these bullet connectors right there. They push into a rubber grommet. So what I did is I put a screw through from the front to the back with some epoxy on it, and I pushed the plastic bullet over that, and then I plastic welded it. So that's good. Next thing to happen is I got to pick up get some color match paint tomorrow. I got some replacement decals that I got to get made up for this. The main problem is this decal, this panel over here has got somebody has touched up the yellow decal with paint, and there's a crack that basically runs the length basically between those two decals, and then there's a little piece that's broken right there. So now that's got to get repaired and repainted. And then I have an OEM brand new NOS pipe for this coming. Won't sound as good as this Vance & Hines pipe, but it will be original, which is good. And then the other thing I have to do, I noticed that somebody put this wheel on backwards, so I got to turn the wheel around. I'll take the fender off and pop up the front end on the stand here, and clean the wheel while I've got it off. And then just a lot more cleaning needs to be done as usual. Well, that's where we're at. Oh, the other thing I did today also is I did fix the fuel leak. I put a new petcock valve on here, brand new from Honda. $90 Canadian later, I have a new petcock in there, so now it doesn't leak fuel, which is good. So yeah, there's always a lot of little things that you find when you start taking these things apart. So over the next little while I have to do some work on the CBR600 F3. It's a 1997. Bought it a few months ago and did a little bit of work on it. I had to put a new fuel tap on the tank because it was leaking fuel, and a couple of the little things that needed to be straightened out on it, new headlight and that kind of stuff. Did a little bit of body work. The body work has mostly been removed from the bike for the work I have to do now, but I did a little bit of paint work on one of the panels, put a couple of new decals on it. It had been tipped over on the left side, and then while I've got it apart this time and I can get better access to the upper fairing, I might have to take this off, but I have to put a new one of these decals on here because you can see the scrapes from the tip over that it had. I put a new lever on it. But I went to fire it up yesterday, and when I fired it up, it was running for maybe 15-20 seconds. I started seeing a little bit of smoke coming up from around this area here, and then I shut the bike off right away, and then there was a huge puddle of fuel underneath the bike, and checked it out, and the three carburetors, 1, 2, 3 on this side, were all dripping with fuel. So what I suspect is the fuel supply line on this bike, it goes from a single line here into 2 lines, and then the 2 lines go into T-fittings, I think, in the carburetors, and on those T-fittings are O-rings. So my suspicion is that the O-rings on the T-fitting between Carburetor 3 and Carburetor 4 are leaking. That's what it looks like to me. I'll have to take everything apart a little bit more to investigate that. I'll pull the air box off and so on, and then I'll put something underneath those carburetors just so I can tell exactly where it's coming from. But one way or another, those carbs are going to have to come out, and I'll probably wait until I can get a full carb kit with all new O-rings and such to before I pull all the thing apart. I'm not just going to try to replace 1 or 2 O-rings. While it's apart, I might as well clean the carbs and do the whole lot, put them in the ultrasonic cleaner. And then the other thing I have to do is I bought another water pump. I got it off eBay. It's a used pump. I may or may not live to regret buying a used pump for this, but we'll see how it goes. I might have to go eventually and buy a brand new one, but this one does drip a little bit now and again. So that's going to get replaced as well, where I've got it apart. And yeah, I'll show you more as it progresses. All right, so the 97 CBR600 F3. The only other thing that I did do just this morning is I threw a new rear fender on this. I found one on eBay, and the other one was hacked off about here, as often happens with these bikes. Everybody wants to make their own tidy tail, tail tidy, whatever you want to call it. I can't stand it. They've all got to be as original as possible for me. So got this one out of the UK. It took me about 10 minutes to disconnect the lights and take the light unit off and unbolt the whole thing. It was pretty quick and easy. And as far as the carbs go, well, a bit of a pain in the neck, but not the worst set of carbs I ever pulled off. There's a couple of coolant lines. You can see one down there and one there that have to come off. The airbox top and base are pretty simple, and then the usual stuff like the choke cable, throttle cables, and the boots. The boots for the manifold, which attach obviously down here, are a little trickier to get off. You do have to take off. There's a bracket, a triangular bracket that bolts in here to hold the engine in. You have to take that off to be able to get a long screwdriver in to get at those boots on the right hand side. But once they're loosened off, the whole thing pops off pretty easy. And then there's a bunch of these air lines that attach to the carbs, and stuff here that I just kind of moved this stuff out of the way. But yeah, all in all, it wasn't too bad to get off. And then the carburetors are here, so they will be they'll be coming apart. I did find that when I took the carbs off, the coolant hoses that go on to the carburetors were held on by, it's supposed to be 2 of these guys, but it looks like 2 of them were broken. These 2 here, and then these guys were kind of sitting next to them, so somebody threw some extra ones on by the looks of it, as far as I can tell. But even these ones, you can tell from the shape of them, they're absolutely screwed. So they are not going back on. I've already got new ones sitting on those hoses for when this goes back in. That's not going to hold anything. You can just see how badly bent these things are. And that wasn't from me getting them off either. That was how they were. Surprised they didn't leak. Anyway, so they're going in the garbage. And yeah, aside from that, it'll just be a pretty methodical. I'll try to film as much of it as I can, taking these apart. So typically what I use is I've got a set of 4 bins, 2 sets of 4 bins actually, and I'll label each one, and then the parts, as I take them off, take this all apart, will be put into those bins, and they'll still get bagged and labeled as we go. I have the parts. These came out of Thailand, and from what I read on the CBR forum, these are better than the original stuff. Silicone rubber or Viton silicone or whatever they are. Higher quality. They've got the gaskets that go underneath these velocity stacks. There's base gaskets, the float bowl gaskets, and then all of the O-rings, whether that's for coolant pipes or fuel lines or pilot screws or all of that sort of stuff is in here. There's some extra screws. So we'll see how it all goes. Let's say the main reason for doing this is they were leaking really badly as soon as I fired the bike up. The bike was running fine, and then I went to fire it up there about a week ago, and this I think, as far as I can tell, the fuel line that kind of comes into here, and then it splits off to these two banks, and then this one, fuel was just pouring out from down in this area and then running down all of these carbs to the left side. So I'm assuming that the O-ring in one of these two sides has just kind of had its day. It's dried out and it's just pissing fuel everywhere. So I figured I might as well buy a full set of seals and O-rings for everything, and then do it once when I know everything is all good and new in there, and I'm not going to be tearing it apart again. There's no point in doing the job twice. So it was about $80 Canadian for that that set of gaskets and O-rings, which, you know, it's not cheap, I guess, but it's probably a heck of a lot cheaper than Honda would charge if they still had them around, and I don't know if they do. I didn't even bother to look. So Honda prices these days are just crazy. All right, so stay tuned. So a quick update on the CBR600 F3. Did a bit of work on this. Unfortunately, I didn't film it, but anyway, one of the things I did fix, behind this panel right about here, there's a lug that fits into a rubber plug there. It keeps the panels in place. I think there's 3 or so of them on the inside of each of these side panels, and this one was broken off on this side, and then the one at the I think at the back here was broken off on this side. So I made new ones. I took a mold of the good ones from each side and then poured a new plastics form and epoxied them on, and they worked really well. So that's good. That's all done. The bike's been cleaned up. Had the fairings off, cleaned everything out. I did put a new fuel petcock in. It was leaking like a sieve. This bike has been over on the left side here, so I ended up putting in a new lever because it was bent. And right now, I did repair that center section of the insert there, which you can see in gray primer currently. It's not finished yet. Once the decals arrive, I've got a decal set coming. I'll peel these off, get rid of this, and then finish sanding this and get the whole thing blown in purple and re-clear coated, and then we'll put some new decals on, but I'm just waiting for those to arrive. And then I did find this main panel here is a replacement, slightly better than the one that came on it, which is sitting over there. But I am going to try to fix that one up as well. Once the decals arrive, I'll get that painted. We'll see how it goes from there. The other thing I did notice was there's a bit of a drip coming from the water pump. So I've got another one of those on the way, and then hopefully that's it. Should be done. It's definitely, in my opinion, the best looking F3 that was ever made. Beautiful color scheme. Well, the other thing I picked up was an OEM pipe for it, but I'm going to leave the Vance & Hines on for now. Hey folks, welcome back to True-Moto-Resto. I just wanted to give a final update on the CBR600 F3. This is the final results after I got the insert panel painted. So this is the first paint job that I've done myself in quite some time. So my painter agreed to give me a few lessons, and it worked out pretty well. So this whole insert was repainted and re-cleared, and then all these decals at the front, I guess the rear edge here, were all replaced. And then I also replaced this main decal here because it was all scraped up, you recall, up here. So, and it went on reasonably well. So she's finally looking the way she's supposed to look. The only thing I may still need to do to this bike is change the water pump. I've noticed a couple of drips now and again that are telling me that that's going to be on its way out pretty soon. I do have a spare one here, so probably over the winter I'll get around to changing that out. But yeah, there you go. It's nicely painted. The color match is really good, and quite happy with how that all turned out. That's all for now.